What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have new model runs that are coming in. We have more from the NHC that's looking at, and we're also paying attention to the Central American gyre that is by the day getting more and more organized, and by the day developing more and more before this thing starts to become tropical in the middle part of this coming week, or around roughly Wednesday or Thursday or so. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and kind of give you the 7-day outlook at this current point in time. This is what we have from the National Hurricane Center. Still a 30% chance of formation in the next 7 days, but there is something I am noticing now. It's that at least for the long-term trends, all of Jamaica is now in this area that is tagged, and now Cuba and Haiti are also in this area as well. So this poses, in my opinion, probably a bigger threat to land than it did before, because before it was a bit more theoretical. Now the NHC is adjusting the track accordingly, and it's showing that, hey, maybe Jamaica's going to get something, Cuba's potentially going to get something, potentially Haiti, which is the absolute worst place to get tropical storms, it may get something. We don't know. We'll have to pay attention to it. But here's the situation from the southwestern Caribbean Sea. A broad area of low pressure is forecasted to form in the southwestern Caribbean Sea around the middle part of next week. Thereafter, environmental conditions appear conducive for gradual development of this system while it meanders in the Caribbean Sea into the weekend. Formation chance in the next 48 hours is still at 0%. The gyre hasn't been really tagged as a low pressure yet, but we now have a 30% chance of formation in the next 7 days, and we'll have to see how this whole thing plays out. I've been talking with Weather Center Nazario about all this. He's telling me, hey, you need to take a look at some of the stuff that's going on. From what I'm seeing as well, I've been talking with my tropical team on Storms Unite. I've been talking with him. The European is now calling for a hurricane to develop. I'm not exaggerating when I say this. The European model, which yesterday was the most conservative model out of all 5 of them, is now one of the most aggressive. It's now calling for a potential Category 1 hurricane in the Caribbean Sea. And I'm not trolling when I say this. Here's what we have going on with the European model at this current point in time. Here's the situation. The European model has this thing starting about roughly 4 to 5 days out, showing signs of organization and development as time continues to go on in the southwestern Caribbean Sea, and then it starts to finally start strengthening as time continues to go on, and then eventually we start to see a bit of a wobbly path or so. We have this thing first moving east, and then kind of stalling and moving further to the west, and then becoming a 980 millibar system, and it's kind of going zigzag across the Caribbean Sea. One thing I don't really like, though, is this track from the European. As much as I like the European as a model, I absolutely do not trust this track, primarily because of how zigzaggy and just the fact that the steering currents aren't even collapsing that much. Now, if we saw a complete collapse of the steering currents, I could understand that. But just this whole thing where it kind of oscillates back and forth, it's something that I'm not too big of a fan of. However, based off of what I'm seeing, if we go ahead and actually show you the shear and moisture forecast with the European, because this is something I want to pay attention to as well. I want to see what that shear and moisture component does to all of this. Here's the wind shear at this current point in time. Starting about 6 days out, we start seeing a pretty decent-sized pocket of low wind shear as this thing starts to organize and develop, and then the wind shear weakens considerably across the Caribbean by 8 days out, and then it starts to oscillate back and into that low-sheared environment, and that potential shear near the Bahamas could actually help enhance its outflow, which is kind of why I like the intensity a bit more than I did previously, because there is a possibility that the shear, which usually tears storms apart, may actually, in this case, be beneficial to the hurricane if this does develop because of the outflow that it may generate. So that's the shear forecast. We show you the moisture component to all this. The moisture's been pretty interesting, to say at the very least. We do see a huge moist pocket start to organize and develop as the Central American gyre comes off of Central America, and then it really starts to ramp up as time continues to go on. Pretty much the western half of the Caribbean Sea, about 90 hours out, becomes a huge moist area for tropical development, which is something that I'm a little concerned about, because if there was dry air in the Caribbean, I go, yeah, this probably isn't going to develop. I mean, there's a bunch of fantasy runs that are calling this, but based off the conditions I'm seeing, I don't really see that going on. But no, guys, we have a pretty big pocket of moist air going on, and it's definitely something we absolutely have to keep an eye on, primarily because of A, how expansive it is, B, how late in the season is. Like, it's November, we're still seeing moist air across. The Sahara dust isn't really doing too much just yet to stop anything. And we may see one last thing, and the European finally forecast that. We do see a bit of dry air kind of intrude into the Caribbean Sea a little bit, but then the moist air starts to kind of come back a little bit as the hurricane organizes and develops, and kind of the outflow as well pushes that dry air back, similar to what Hurricane Laura did in 2020. So this is definitely something to pay attention to, quite interesting, I know. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and get to some other models that are here as well. We're going to obviously show you the GFS, the CMC, the NavGem, the Icon, all those models to give you a better understanding of what we're potentially looking at. Here's the GFS model as of right now. The GFS is showing signs of organization and development, and rather quick strengthening, rather. This is actually anticipated to organize into a tropical storm by Wednesday, and then kind of just meander in the southwestern Caribbean Sea, and then really starts to show signs of organization and strengthening as it approaches Jamaica, and then Haiti as a 971 millibar Category 2 hurricane, which, by the way, if that were to actually happen, that would be the absolute worst case scenario, in my opinion, because, number one, Haiti is the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere after Venezuela. Their infrastructure is absolutely abhorrent. They have a huge amount of mountains, not just in Haiti, but across Hispaniola, and they have no government to really upkeep anything that's going on. They've been in a state of anarchy for the last 2.5 years now, so that's my main concern when it comes to all this. It then makes landfall, weakens a bit due to the mountains of Hispaniola, and then starts to re-strengthen and become extratropical before dissipating over the Atlantic Ocean if the GFS is accurate. To be honest with you guys, the GFS, as kind of grandiose as it seems, I don't particularly trust this. Do I think the track is possible? Oh yeah, absolutely, I absolutely do. Do I think the intensity is possible? Yeah, there may be some grounds for it, but right now, unless we see a massive decrease in the wind shear, which we definitely are, and we see a lot more moist air going in, the GFS is showing this huge dry air portion in the western part of it, so that's kind of why I'm not really taking it at face value as I would with other models. It's definitely something to pay attention to, and could it happen? Absolutely. Is it likely at this current point? Not particularly. That's what we have going on with the GFS. If we show you the CMC model, the CMC has been a very interesting model, to say at the very least. The CMC does show some development going on and happening, but it doesn't really start showing that until later in the run, starting about on November 17th, which is Friday. And basically, it shows signs of organization and some development, and then it has it approaching Nicaragua as a tropical storm right now. CMC has been one of those models that have been pretty interesting, and it's not out of the realm of a possibility that this does happen. However, based off of what the NHC is going off of, and based off what the rest of the models are going off of, I still think Jamaica, Cuba, and Haiti is the most likely scenario at this current point in time. If we go ahead and show you the NavGem model, NavGem has been a very interesting run, to say at the very least. Show signs of organization and development starting on Wednesday. And then it approaches Jamaica as a tropical storms, and then it eventually gets absorbed into this whole new low-pressure system, this potential nor'easter that's going to be impacting New England over here. So this is definitely something to pay attention to, and I'm keeping a close eye on it. Last model we're showing you is the Icon run. The Icon is showing signs of organization and development starting about Wednesday once again, and then it shows signs of strengthening right after that as it starts tapping into those extremely warm waters. It starts tapping into that great OHC that's in all those areas, and the Icon approaches Jamaica and Haiti as a strong tropical storm. And while I could say that Jamaica could definitely make do with a tropical storm, Haiti absolutely can't, primarily because of all the mudslides and all the awful infrastructure that's going on over there that we were discussing about earlier. And now with all the models that are out of the way, we're going to go ahead and show you some conditions, because you're probably saying right now, you're saying all these models are saying this, but you're not talking about the conditions. Patrick, what the hell are the conditions? Patrick, show us the conditions. Okay, I'll show you the conditions that back this up. Here's the global sea temperatures right here. The global sea temperatures are about 30 degrees Celsius, pretty much all the way from where it's expected to develop to Haiti or Cuba or wherever this thing goes. That's the situation we have right there. Where this thing is expected to develop is in the absolute warmest areas of sea surface temperature of the Atlantic right now. Has the absolute best conditions when it comes to warm water and when it comes to ocean heat content. That's what's concerning me about this. And for those of you who don't know what 30 degrees Celsius is, that's about 86 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you who live in the United States and Puerto Rico, as well as other countries that do not use the metric system. So, with that being said, we show you the 30 plus degrees Celsius waters. If we show you the ocean heat content, the ocean heat content is rather extreme for this time of year. Keep in mind, 2020 was pretty interesting. We did see some OHC pockets exceeding around 100, 125 with Eta and Iota happening, but we're seeing is still an area of around 175 to 200 OHC off the coast of Jamaica and off the coast of Haiti. With that going on, this is beating out what the OHC was back in 2020. And that's another area of particular concern right there, because there's a lot more fuel for something to happen than there was 3 years ago. And keep in mind, that was a hyperactive La Nina year right there, folks. So that's definitely something to pay attention to. Last thing we're going to go ahead and show you is the wind shear. And right now, the wind shear isn't particularly that good, but it is decreasing in other parts of the Caribbean Sea right now. Keep that in mind. We showed you what the European model was forecasting when it came to that stuff. We all showed you that, so it's definitely something that we still need to pay attention to, as the wind shear is anticipated to decrease in the next 72 hours, and it is expected to hold pretty much in its weak intensity and allow this tropical development to happen. That's why the NHC tagged this so early on, and I talked about this last video, but the NHC tagging this like 6 days out when it started on Thursday was rather disturbing to me, because the NHC never really tags stuff that far out unless they're absolutely confident that something's going to happen. They did that with Adalia before. They did that with Lee as well. And my concern is, with all this going on, the NHC seems to be quite confident that something's going to be happening. And this is all stuff that we need to continue to keep an eye on, and we will keep you updated here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But with that being said, we're closing the video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It helps us out, helps us make more videos like these. The goal of this channel is to get more people engaged with weather. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.